God. Proverbs 13 and verse 23. Much food is in the fallow ground of the poor, but lack of justice, and for lack of justice, there is waste. Much food is in the fallow ground. What is fallow ground? That's idle ground. So it says there's a lot of wealth in the areas you have not tapped into. There's so much wealth in the areas you've not tapped into, including and not limited to what I said, which is your idle money. Now, when you put your money in a place where it is not increasing, it is not growing, it is not multiplying, and it is not coming back to you, that money is not benefiting you. It needs to move. It needs to move. We have to move away from this. I don't know whether it is African or it is just how we grew up. We have to move away from the comfort of seeing an account that has money that is not benefiting us. We have to move away from that and begin to ask ourselves, how can we move this money into places where in the next 4 to 5 years it will free us? Now, I like thinking about how God was thinking in creation. When God created day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, the 7th day he rested. This is how you should work effectively. You need to work yourself into retirement. And that does not mean that you wait until you're 50 or 60. You need to work your way into a place where you will not need to work the way you're working now in the future. That is you working yourself into retirement. So that you can actually get to the place of rest, whether you're 45, 55 or something, you can work your way into the place where the work you have been doing begins to feed you. It does not need your personal presence. If for what you do, you have to be there physically, then you are going to be very temporary in what you do. Why? Because you will grow old, you will grow tired, somewhere along the line. That means if sickness comes in, you're not effective. So we have to learn how to work systems of money. It is not enough for you to just work. Sometimes we talk about, working and being diligent. The scripture says in Proverbs 32 verse 39, do you see a man who is diligent in his business? He will not stand before mere men. But it is not just about working diligently. There is the common saying, don't just work hard, work smart. Of course, you have to work both ways. But smart working is working your way out of your job. You work your way until you will not need to show up there any one day. There's a lady, they started some businesses in town, and they've bought quite some number of shops around the city. And they're doing quite well with it. Then recently, she started telling me, I don't think I have the energy to manage all these shops. So they have started moving into a different kind of investment, which will not require as much strength. It is a higher and a bigger thing, but she's already thinking about the time when she will not have the energy. Now, one of the ways you need to think about your financial freedom is to ask yourself, what can I do that will make me money without me having to be present? What can I do that will not require me to wake up in the morning and go there? That is when now you're actually making your money work for you. So you need to look for this money in the places that are not productive. Take it back to that Proverbs 13. In the places that are not productive. Before we look for extra money, we need to find the money we have that is not working for us. Before you look for extra money, look for the money you have that is not working for you. Now, part of that money may not even be in things that are tangible. Part of that money is in your head. It is in skills and gifts and abilities that you have not put to use. It is in contacts that you have not taken advantage of. It is in places that you have not thought of what to do with. Before you look for the extra, I will say that again, before you look for the extra, you need to look for what do you have now that you're not using. Everybody probably in the scripture that God encountered, he used to ask them what they had. For Moses, in Exodus 4:2, he would say, what do you have in your hand? For the widow, in 2 Kings chapter 4 and verse 3, Elisha said, what do you have in your house? Because you have to start from what you have as you go to what you need. You have to start from what you have as you move towards what you need. So the question you need to ask yourself today is, what do you have? You have to do an inventory. Take an inventory. What do I have? In terms of physical strength, in terms of mental strength, in terms of ideas, in terms of networks, in terms of land, resources, properties. Ask yourself, what do you have? Then you need to ask yourself, of the things you have, how much of that is actually working for you? How much of that is working for you? So if I have a car that is taking from me, I sell it, I dispose it and put that money into something else. If I have a house that is not benefiting me, I release it and get that money and put it in something else. If I have a piece of land that is not going to benefit me in the next 4 to 5 years, I release it. See, you can't have that kind of faith of waiting for the next 10 years. You can't have that kind of faith. You need to have something that is working also in the next 5 years. So you release it, put it somewhere else, consolidate what you have. Sometimes, even though I'm a believer in diversification, I like doing quite a number of things. Sometimes you need to put your eggs in one basket. Then when it begins to become profitable, then you diversify. Sometimes it is not viable to start 6 things and all of them are struggling. You may need to put most of your effort into one thing. Then when that thing begins to rise, then you can go into the next and the next. So today, your prayer should be, and your thinking should be, when you leave this place, you should ask yourself, what is it that I have that I'm not using? And where is my money lying that it is not benefiting me? One of the things I learned in adjusting to the post-COVID period was how to use less. How to use less. Now, we were having, just as you people are having, we were having this land project, and then COVID hit. I think we had a giving on the day that the president announced, the very same day, right? We had a giving, then in the afternoon the president announced and said COVID had hit Kenya, so everything stopped by then. Now, what I wanted was very massive then. But later on, when I saw how sanctuaries were being closed, aeroplanes were being brought down, being packed, the large ones and stuff, when I started seeing the fact that it is possible for numbers not to be allowed to get to certain spaces, I started thinking about it. Then I thought, we can actually use what we have and then use it differently. That we don't actually need what I thought we needed. And I thought about how malls are built. People will build malls on less land than we build churches. But the commercial value of that mall will be outrageous. So I started thinking about, how can I do less? Or rather, how can I do more within the less that I have? And sometimes we've got to re-engineer our thinking so that you make every coin, every space, every ground work for you. Companies learned, and you know that because you work out there, companies learned how to scale down. You're using less office space, but still have to produce at a certain level. Some of them will never go back into using the kind of spaces they were using before. They have learned that they can actually have lower overheads and still try to have high productivity. Now, this is you finding your idle money. Because probably your idle money is in a house that is bigger than the space you need. It's in a business that you got into that is not going to work. Never attach emotions to money decisions. Never attach emotions to money decisions. Oh, you know, I bought this car. It is my first car, so I can't let it go. You are suffering and you are attached to a car. Let the thing go. Let the thing go. Or, you know, I'm attached to that land that is, I don't know where. Let the thing go, even if it is ancestral land. And you're not affecting other people. You are not going, you see, your children don't care who your ancestors are if you leave no inheritance. They don't care. In fact, some of your children are planning to go and become ancestors in Europe. They will marry people abroad and not come back here. So they really don't care about this, but they care about the life you give them. So you have to think about the future. If some of those ancestors thought the way you want to think now, they would not have moved into Kajiado. They probably were somewhere else. Some of them were probably in Tanzania. Then they moved here because they were thinking about their future generations. So don't attach emotion. When you know you need to let something go, you need to let it go. Some of the things we hold, I've seen people hold, for example, somebody will hold a car till they cannot sell it again. By the time now they want to get rid of it, nobody can buy it. Sometimes somebody will hold land till it has no value. By the time they want to sell it, there's nothing that they can do with that. People hold on to things. They will hold on to shares that are not benefiting them. So you need to free your idle money. Gold in the Bible was flowing in a river. Money is supposed to flow. It is supposed to flow. So today, be released from the false security of going to see your bank balance. All right? Be released from the false security. Let me talk about something else concerning this thing of houses and how we view assets. You know, a good house in a bad neighborhood is going to fetch a bad price. A good house in a bad neighborhood. So if you take a very good house and you put it in somewhere and then everybody there is building a thatched house, there's no value for that house. So even when you want to sell it, you will not get much from it. So it is not always that you have built something. No. It is not always that you own something. It is how, God didn't say own. He said be fruitful and multiply. It is how effective you are in fruitfulness and multiplication. There are people, a friend of ours, a friend of mine, this man has a very weird way of thinking. Okay, not very weird, but he's one of the most practical people that I've ever seen. He's attached to nothing. It is good and bad because that is also how he changes his wives. He's attached to nothing. If it is not working, he moves on and then he finds another word. But in business, it is working for him. This gentleman bought a house at some point. Then he found somebody who wanted to buy it. So he sold the house at about 22 million. He had bought it at 15. Then he sold the house at about 22 million. Then he negotiated with the new owner and he said, when you want to sell it, he said, first of all, allow me to be here. Let me rent the house because the new owner was based in the US. So I said, allow me to be your tenant. So he sold the house, then he started paying rent in the same house. Then he said, when you want to sell it, let me have the first rights to buy. And they had that agreement. Now, when the owner realized he cannot come back, he said he wanted to sell the house. So what my friend did, he said, let's call a valuer. When he was selling it at 22, he was just doing market price. He did not bring a valuer. He said, let's bring a valuer to the house, for the house. So the man in the US thought this thing would go high. When valuation was done, the valuer put it at 15 million. So he said, all right, I cannot buy this thing from you at more than 15. The valuation report says 15. The man said, but you sold me the house at 22. He said, yeah, but this is the valuation report. I said, now that the valuation has been done, you cannot sell this thing higher than this. So the owner had to sell to the first owner. And in that very crazy deal, he made 7 million while a tenant in his own house. Now, he didn't rob anybody. He didn't rob him. The other guy should have done due diligence in the first place and said, bring a valuer. He didn't. That's like Jacob and Esau. Jacob did not con Esau. Jacob just, if I bring you this water and I say it is 1,000 and you say it's fine, have I conned you? I'm asking you a question. Have I conned you? You came for the water. I gave you a price. You agreed. Is that conmanship? Good evening, Kajiado people. I thought you went out to energize. Are you well? So if I tell you this is 1,000, if you buy it, that's why when you go somewhere, this bottle will be sold at 50 shillings. You go somewhere else, they will tell you the water is 300. Nobody has conned you. It is where you're sitting that will determine how much. By the time you walk into Kempinski, you cannot argue that, but we buy this bottle in Kajiado for 40 shillings. If you want it at 40, go where it is sold at 40. Or how much is this one sold? Is it 30, 40? Have you not seen that you will walk into a place where they will mix for you tea the way I've mixed mine here, and then when the bill comes, the tea is 700. Now you start arguing, but I can buy the tea bags by myself. They've given you one tea bag. They've said it is 700. They've not stolen from you. All these people are stealing from us. They've not stolen from you. You went there, you saw the menu. You agreed to order for the tea. That's negotiation. You see, a lot of us are not good negotiators as well. So the guy made 7 million on that deal and took back the house. Now the other day, he sold that house eventually again, then he bought another house. So the other day he was telling me how he wanted to sell this house he's in. And he said, you see, I'm looking at that house and I can make over 150 million. So he said his wife doesn't want it. And he's thinking of the number of things he can do with that money. The other one is looking at, we have a house. This man is looking at the things he can do with that money. Sometimes ownership is the hindrance to prosperity. Sometimes ownership is the hindrance to prosperity. There are people who go to town. When they come back, they have sold their car. They use matatus for a few days. Then they buy another one, but they've made profit. They sell that car, it does business for them, they do business, they make some money, they do certain things they needed to do, then they get one. Then there's somebody else who will hold on to, I can't be without a car. I can't be without a car. Because if you show up at church without a car, people will think you're struggling. So you're holding on to a car that you cannot fuel. Every Sunday you have to text your relatives to say, help me with fuel. You show up in church. If you can't fuel the car, sell it. If you're parking it from Monday to Friday to use it on Sunday, please use matatu. Let me look at you eyeball to eyeball and tell you that. If you cannot fuel it the whole week, you're only using it on Sunday, it is not benefiting you. Just sell that thing and make some money from somewhere. A young lady went and told the mother, the lady I was saying they bought quite a number of shops in town now on Biashara Street. They sent their daughter to go and study in Switzerland. When the girl came back home, the girl told them, they said, you know, you people don't live. You're only trying to earn a living, but you're not living. He said, you work so hard, but you never enjoy your money. You're always working and working and working and working. So the girl told the parents that, you see, in Switzerland, rarely will you find anybody have a mansion. They take an apartment, they make a lot of money, they take an apartment, they live there, they're fine. If they need to go on holiday, they go. They experience life. They experience life. Now we take more than we can, then we work to fund our lifestyle. So you don't have free money, floating money. Now, for some people, in order to find your idle money next year, it means you need to scale down your lifestyle. You need to move into less and then free your money for things that can actually produce for you. If you're still here, can I see you wave your hand? All right. Are you well over there? I know I'm teaching about money, but I can still heal the sick. Are you well? Do you believe she's well? Do you believe that person is well over there? Are they well? All right. That is your money position. Okay. All right. So, for some of you, you need to scale down. Scale down so that you free some money and begin to use that money to make more money. In a year or two, you get back into the place where you can afford a life that you want. You see, this is one of the biggest problems with Christians. Christians believe that when you scale down, it means that you are losing. We're not very good at doing that. So Christians believe when you scale down, it means that you admit that you're losing. That is not always true. Sometimes it is strategic for you to scale down so that you can begin to rebuild yourself from where you are. Which means, for example, if you were, what's the average rent in Kajiado, for example? Pardon? I can't hear you. What's the average rent? Okay, family house, what's the average rent? About 10,000. Okay, I need to move to Kajiado. 10,000, I need to move to Kajiado. Then I can use matatus to Nairobi. I'll have a lot of money to save. You see, 10,000 is a what? What is 10,000 in Nairobi? Is that a bed sitter? That's a bed sitter in Nairobi, so okay, so I don't know how to give the example of Kajiado. Let me use the example of Nairobi because I don't want to scale down here. So, for example, if somebody is living, if somebody is paying their house 50,000 and they are struggling to have extra, sometimes it is not lack of faith for them to move down into a house of 30 so that they free themselves with the 20 and begin to find something to do with that 20, 10, or 15 so that with time they have enough money to sustain their house of 50. So it is not about going down, it is somebody just being strategic about it, scaling down. If your money is so committed that you have nothing to invest, nothing to save, nothing to give, then you are living way outside of your league. If you have nothing to invest, you must always have something that you can invest. When investment opportunities come around you, you should not always have nothing to put into investment. There must be something. Now that is where the benefit of savings comes in. And that's why I said you save money that you have nothing to do with, that you don't know what to do with for a while. So you save so that you have money to invest. You save so that you have money to give. If you never have what to invest and what to give, and you never have anything, then you are way out of your financial league. You need to begin making readjustments because you're living very dangerously. It means that you will be stuck. You could be earning good money, but you'll always be stuck. You need to have, and you probably know this. Okay, this is my biblical thinking of money because I'm finishing now. This is my biblical thinking of money. 10% goes to your tithe. Somewhere around 20% needs to go into your savings, which means that you're supposed to operate from around 70%. Now, of your 70%, unless your faith permits you or unless you have other ways of earning money, you need to have a house that is 25% of your 70%. Let me go back into that. 10% is your tithe, non-negotiable. Don't argue, don't try to find out whether it is net or gross or whatever. 10% of your income goes into your tithe. 20% should be what you set aside so that you are able to invest, you're able to sow. Do you know that as a Christian, the fact that whenever people need to sow a seed, you don't have a seed, tells me how poor a steward you are. That's very bad stewardship. That's why you don't have the seed to sow. You must always have your seed to sow. Even the farmer knows. The farmer knows that they don't eat everything that comes. They set aside some because they know that there's a planting season coming ahead. So you cannot be eating everything. You have to always be ready for investment opportunities that will come around you. There are certain opportunities that will come very quickly and they have a lifetime. If you don't get into them within that period, you will not get anything out of it. So it's important for you to always know that you need to have a backup system for things that will come around you. So 10% is your tithe, 20%. When you save 20%, that one is for you. You're doing yourself a favor. So don't even feel like, you're struggling to do that. You're doing yourself a favor. You're securing your future. Then you will be left with 70%. So let me say you're earning 100,000. 10,000 is already your tithe. 20,000, you have set it aside for the rainy day. So you're left with 70,000. Now, what most Christians do is when they have paid their tithe, they begin, like they put a gun on God's head. That now that you have given him 10,000, he should make sure that this 90,000 is enough. Even after you have paid your tithe, you still have to be a good steward of what you are remaining with. So you cannot pay your tithe of 10,000 and then move into a house of 70,000 when you know you're earning 100,000 and blame God. You cannot do that. You still have a brain. God gave you a head. Sometimes you give him rest. He didn't want you to pray about everything. There are things he wanted you to think about. So out of the 70,000, then you do your 25%. For things like your rent, the reason why they need to be low is because they keep coming. So you have to ask yourself, what if you're not able to pay your rent for 6 months? Can you recover that after a while? Can you recover it, or will it be off limits? So then you put it around that, the 25% of that 70,000. Then within that place now you can take care of your needs and you have something to give as well. It's just a matter of planning. Are you still with me? Are you people still here? Now, if you feel that you need to live above that level, then what you've got to do is increase your streams of income. In fact, I was reading an article at one point. It was a human resource article at some point on the workplace behavior. And these people were saying right now, nobody should employ anybody that does not have a side hustle. And it was an article done in the US, and they were actually saying that most employers would not even prefer to have people who don't have side hustles, because it shows a lack of drive, and it also shows that they have a lot of unproductive time. So they felt that when somebody is doing other things, they are very creative and productive, they will carry the same energy into that place. That's why then people are going more for flexible working times. So if you want then to live at a certain level, you need to increase your streams of income. So what else can you do? What else can you do? If you're employed, don't start something that requires you to be there. Don't. If you don't have the patience, then put your money somewhere where people will take care of it for you and multiply it. It is not everybody that is called to be an entrepreneur. Some people are just supposed to invest. You put your money there, let other people just run it and multiply it, and then you wait for what they will give you. If you know you won't have the time and patience. Now, if you're going to get into anything like entrepreneurship, don't go into it, number one, if you're not willing to lose your money. That's why I talked about the risk thing. If you're not willing to lose your money, don't go into it. Number two, if you're not willing to wait for about 5 years, don't go into it. It will take time before whatever you have put in begins to bring back to you. So if you're in a hurry, that because you put in your 100K, this is why people fight over money, even in these chamas, because you put in your money and then you start looking for it very quickly. If you're in a hurry, just don't get into it. It takes time. It takes time. I was sharing with Reverend Topicia early on. We were talking about different things about church. I said, do you know that even in the business world, over about 90% of startup companies do not make it past the first year. They don't go past 1 year. It is very difficult to start anything. By the time a business survives to the 3rd year, that business will survive. When it gets to the 10th year, it is said to be successful already. It has gone through the natural processes. It has stabilized at year 10. So most people lose it at year 1. Now, if you cannot wait for 5 years, just don't go into it. A man put in his money into Kenya several years ago, Virgin Atlantic. He put in his money over here, brought in the aeroplanes. Eventually, he pulled them out. But when he did, he said he's not expecting to make any money for the next 5 to 10 years. That's how people who are entrepreneurial think. If you're starting an establishment, forget about that money. Do the business, work on it, forget about the profit. Just keep on doing what you need to do. Forget about the money. So if you are in employment, I'm saying a lot of things at the same time. If you're in employment and you need to do something else, don't do anything that requires your time, because either it will affect your employment or that business will run down. So you have to find something else that you can do without necessarily being there physically. Now, there are opportunities in different spaces. Those are the opportunities you need to learn about. You need to find out about different things that you may need to get into. It's 5:45. I'm supposed to have stopped 15 minutes ago. I want to stop there. I want to stop there so that we come back another time.